Today's stories include a PlayStation State of Play is rumored for next week, the BioWare layoffs are worse than we thought, and our first look at the next Battlefield. We'll have all this and more because this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kinda Funny Games Daily for Monday, February 3rd, 2025. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing Adeoye Jr. Joining me is the LaCroix Poppy, Tim Buggin Geddes.
What a weekend, Bless. The Royal Rumble, we were here in this room watching on this screen.
Yep. Incredible.
What a time that was. Congrats to Jey Uso.
Congrats to Jey Uso.
Can't believe it. Still can't believe it. So excited about it all.
I had such a good time watching the Royal Rumble on Saturday night that yesterday I got into I did a bunch of things, right? I was supposed to go grocery shopping. I started going grocery shopping and I was like, I'm not in the mood for this. I'm going home. Yeah. Literally, like,
okay.
Wait, what? You didn't get anything?
I got a few because it was a multi-stop trip, but it was like rainy. Yeah. And then also after the Rumble on Saturday night, I thought I was gonna go home and sleep. Instead, I went and I got drinks with Barrett.
Hell
it was
yeah.
Barrett's 30th birthday. He did like a last minute celebration, and so I went, drank up until 2 a.m. Right, closed out the bar, and then on Sunday I was like, all right, I gotta get things. Like I have planned out what my groceries are. I go to CVS and I'm like, fuck this, I'm going home. I don't feel it. I'm not feeling it today.
Nah, not
and
today.
So what I did was I went home and I was like, all right, I'm giving my Sunday to myself. What do I want to do?
Hell
right?
yeah.
It's the weekend. It's Sunday. I'm just going to do the shit that I want to do. So I grab all my Magic cards. I go to the living room. I start tinkering with my Magic deck. And on the TV, I put on 3 things, right?
Yes.
First thing I watched, the most recent episode of Severance.
Hell yeah.
Severance continues to fuck. Come on. What a good show.
Yes.
Then I watch the first 2 episodes of the new season of Mythic Force. Did you know
Mythic
that
Quest.
Mythic Quest?
Yes.
Did you know that that's out?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize it until I finished Severance, and I was like, is that Mythic Quest?
It's fucking Mythic Quest, baby. We're back.
So I watched those 2, and then I put on the Mr. McMahon documentary on Netflix. And I watched the first episode and a half of that, and I got to get back to it.
Yeah, man.
But I had a night last night.
Yeah.
Mythic Quest continues to be awesome.
It does.
I like the direction of the season more than I like the direction of last season.
Me too.
It's like, okay, we're back to it. I like where we're at, and also it's the continued thing of, man, I feel like they watch KFGD
straight up
writing the show.
It's wild. Like, if y'all haven't watched Mythic Quest, you should. If you have interest in this show, you're going to like that show. Like it is one of the biggest surprises ever from Ubisoft of all things.
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with Mythic Quest, right? It is a Apple TV show. It has homie from It's Always Sunny. Is it Rob McElhenney?
Yes.
Rob McElhenney from It's Always Sunny, along with like
Danny Pudi from
from Community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and quite a few people you might recognize if you watch a lot of comedies, right? But the whole premise of the show is that it's a comedy that takes place in a video game studio that is essentially Ubisoft.
It's Ubisoft if Ubisoft made World of Warcraft.
Yes, exactly. And so like they get into like a lot of interesting scenarios of like things you deal with making live service games and just games in general, and like creative versus business and all this shit that like it's a lot of talking points of KFGD distilled down into a really good sitcom.
Yep.
And this season is starting off with a bang. Ashley Birch is in it.
One of the leads as well.
Yeah. So I couldn't recommend the show more. Also, Mr. McMahon documentary, very good.
It is.
Very, very
it's good. Yeah, a little inconsistent, but overall, very, very entertaining. You should definitely keep watching.
You should also keep watching Kinda Funny Games Daily, because remember, this is KFGD. Each and every weekday, we run you through the nerdy news you need to know about live on YouTube, Twitch, and on podcast services around the globe. If you love what we do, support us with the Kinda Funny membership on Patreon, YouTube, and now Spotify and Apple Podcasts to get all of our shows ad-free. Watch us record them live and get a daily exclusive show. For a chance to be a part of the show, submit your thoughts and opinions as YouTube Super Chats as we go. Housekeeping for you. We're an 11-person business all about live talk shows. February's Patreon Platinum Collector's item is here. You can grab this limited edition Ace Off poster. That's right.
So good.
Ace. It says Ace/Off, which is that a face-off reference?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Shout out to Nick Scarpino.
Like, this is just so good.
And this is by the incredible Panda Musk, so you can get it before the month ends. Patreon.com/kindafunny. And then today, after Kinda Funny Games Daily, you're going to get GAMESCAST, which is Mike's Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Civ 7 impressions. Then after that is the stream, which is Mike and Nick playing Streamer Life 2.
It was so good they had to make a sequel.
They had to make a sequel. Who could forget Streamer Life 1 that we all played? If you're a Kinda Funny member, you can get Greg's Royal Rumble stories from Indianapolis on today's Gregway, and you can get the Kinda Funny podcast this afternoon and tomorrow on YouTube and podcast services. Thank you to our Patreon producers. These might not be up to date because it is the first episode of the month. But for now, I will say Delaney Twining and Carl Jacobs. Today are brought to you by Aura Frames, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is. Yeah,
we got a couple more. Yeah. So Delaney Twining, Carl Jacobs, Omega Buster, and Karen Lindner. Welcome to the squad, everybody.
Welcome. We're brought to you by Aura Frames. But for now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 6 stories today.
Baker's dozen.
Love that. Also, are those our first new Patreon producers in like a year? I feel like I've been saying Delaney Twining and Carl Jacobs.
On the game side, yeah, I think those two have stuck. But yeah,
gotcha.
The KF side has a little bit more fluctuation.
Well, welcome in, y'all. Welcome in. Welcome to the family. We're going to start off with story number 1. PlayStation is reportedly prepping a February state of play for Valentine's week. This is Andy Robinson at Video Games Chronicle. Sony will stream its next state of play presentation later this month, it's been claimed. That's according to reliable gaming insider Nate the Hate.
In this house, we do not doubt Nate the Hate.
We do not doubt Nate the I feel like every year there's always, or maybe every 2 years, there's a new name that arises to
joins the fray.
Yeah, and like this year for sure, Nate the Hate is the guy to look for.
And Nate's been here for years, but he's making a name. He's about to make a name for himself today.
What was the last big thing? Because I think it was like with the last one he predicted.
Well, the last one was the Switch.
Yeah, I think that's the one that really put him on the map. Of oh shit.
Let's listen to this, y'all.
Listen, he's saying, or that's according to reliable gaming insider Nate the Hate, who frequently reveals information on the games industry ahead of official announcements. According to the user, PlayStation's next live stream is arriving in February. Asked by an ex-user for more exact timing info on the state of play, the insider dropped a strong hint that it would take place on the week commencing February 10th. Sony regularly puts out state of plays in January or February to reveal some titles that it's planning to release during the first half of the calendar year. Last January, a state of play featured deep dives on Stellar Blade and Rise of the Ronin, plus looks at Death Stranding 2 and Silent Hill. In February 2023, a state of play focused on third-party titles such as Resident Evil 4, Street Fighter 6, and Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. Tim, 1, do you believe it?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? First off, the Nate the Hate, there's a lot of good juice there. Besides that, also,
it
just
lines
adds up. Yeah, it's like, we are expecting to get a state of play at some point. February, March, something like that. We need to get some updates, mainly on third-party things. But are you expecting this to be a good state of play or just another state of play?
I think good if you manage your expectations. That's where I'm at. Because I do... Okay, Tim, we're going to play a game.
Let's play a game.
Tim, tell me if I'm crazy.
Okay.
That's the name of the game. Tell me if I'm crazy. Ghost of Yote release date. Is that crazy? Am I crazy to expect that?
I would say so, only because I don't know if they know yet. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at where PlayStation's at right now, it seems pretty clear that Ghost is their one big thing this year. There might be others.
That's raining too.
But yeah, that's true. That is true. The positioning of it, I think, is going to be of the utmost importance. I think that we need to know a little bit more about like the rest of the PlayStation Studios of what they have going on, because if it is their big thing, that is Death Stranding 2 notwithstanding, where are PlayStation going to want to position it, and where's Sucker Punch ready for it? Because I don't think that game is ready.
Yeah.
But I think that PlayStation wants it to be ready as soon as possible.
I think my perception of Ghost of Yote has been colored so much by Ghost of Tsushima, where for some reason I'm like, summer. It's gonna come summer. But I think that's just because Ghost of Tsushima came out in like July in 2020. And so like I don't even think I even thought of it coming out in the fall, because I think I assumed that the flow of it would be maybe Ghost of Yote July, August, and then Death Stranding 2 comes out October, November-ish, if it does.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I just think that, I don't know, something in my gut tells me that it's not ready, like even for that summer date. But it could happen.
So then tell me if I'm crazy. Death Stranding 2, anything related to Death Stranding 2?
No, I mean, I'm very surprised we haven't been getting a lot of Death Stranding 2 in the last couple Keighley events. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, like both Game Awards and even Summer Game Fest, we didn't get anything from Death Stranding 2.
Yeah, and I think that's right. Yeah.
And we kind of were expecting, at the very least, of some new actor or something weird or whatever. We didn't. So I think that we're due for some on the beach action.
On the beach
You
action.
know what I mean? And yeah, I do also assume that within the next 2 times we hear about Death Stranding 2, it'll be the release date. So I don't know that we're ready for that quite yet, but
So then let's talk about, because I think this article makes a good point of, all right, it's a February state of play, so you can probably expect them to talk about things coming in the first half of the year, because you're probably going to wait until the next state of play, which usually happens in like May or June, to then talk about stuff that's coming out for the second half of the year. What from PlayStation, if anything, do we think we're getting in the first half of the year?
well, looking at this article here, they're talking about what these February ones tend to be, and it is third-party stuff, bigger third-party things. So there is a couple big third-party question marks we have. Metal Gear Solid Delta being a big one, right?
I like that, yeah.
We need to get that date at some point. Like, I feel like that is also overdue. I can't believe we still don't have a date for that game. So
And we're thinking first half of the year for that one.
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think that game is ready.
Yeah.
Like, I also think that there's potential that it is going to try to align with the Switch, but I also think that a lot of the third parties aren't going to hold back to meet the Switch's launch. You get what I'm saying?
I think you double dip. Like, you can release in the first half, and then when the Switch 2 is out,
You're
boom,
there
you're
again.
in the launch
Exactly. So I feel like that's probably the strat there. But I imagine that if there's a state of play, which I believe there is, that we'll get Metal Gear release date there. And the biggest thing I think that we can get from it would be Resident Evil 9. But
Oh, I like that.
you know what?
If we
I'm 50-50 on it, really.
Resident Evil 9 is one of those ones where I think if we get it at the state of play, and correct me if I'm off with this, I don't expect it in the first half of the year, right? I don't think you're announcing it for fall, which is kind of rare for Resident Evil because usually those come out in the spring, but I feel like that might fit really well as an October title. Like, it's actually kind of interesting that they always choose spring for for mainline Resident Evil games.
Yeah, I think that, again, we know that Resident Evil 9's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when it's being announced. I do think that Capcom's in an interesting spot because, oh, wait a minute. Capcom has their event tomorrow, don't they?
The Capcom Spotlight?
Yeah.
It's this week. Yeah, I think probably tomorrow.
Maybe they do it there, but if history's told me, Capcom Spotlights are doo-doo butter.
Yes. That's true. You're spot on with that.
And the PlayStation State of Play, we do get pretty major Capcom announcements. So maybe they're going to switch that up and try to own it a bit more, but...
Okay.
Because they have Onimusha, but that's way later out there. But like
Monster Hunter Wilds, they're gonna get like a big gameplay showcase for that during the spotlight. You imagine. Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised Resident Evil at State of Play. That's I'm leaning towards that over the Capcom thing tomorrow or whatever it is.
Then I guess let's talk about some third parties then, right? Because you bring up those. Split Fiction, I could see a trailer because that comes out March 6th. And so, like, get a last second. Oh, here's remember Split Fiction? It looks really cool. It's coming out on our platform. Look forward to that. Maybe another Assassin's Creed Shadows trailer.
Yeah,
I'm kind of throwing the boring stuff out there because that's like usually the stuff that we're being realistic about it. I'd love to see the first Berserker Kazan show up. That's one that's also coming out in March, but that's also a big exciting game that I think you want to put more eyes on it because after playing the demo, that is a quality action game, and I think that fills the bill of like the people who are looking for that action Souls like something with good production behind it, good budget behind it. Like, I think that checks a lot of boxes that you're going to want to put your audience onto.
I wonder if we get any Microsoft stuff, Indiana Jones trailer / reminder or something. I feel like they don't need it, but it would be interesting to see how PlayStation themselves, via a state of play, their own kind of like spotlight program, how they're going to handle the Xbox titles going forward.
Forza Horizon 5 trailer.
Exactly, like things like that. Maybe even there's
Forza Horizon 5 trailer where like you put some PlayStation shit in it. Like you put like a Gran Turismo car in that thing.
Gran Turismo car.
I don't know if that's a thing that exists.
That's very funny.
You just put the Gran Turismo logo on a car. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ooh, somebody in chat says Liza P DLC.
That feels like another thing that like we're gonna get this year at some point. At least the announcement of it. So yeah, where does that fall? I don't. Liza P. I don't necessarily associate with PlayStation that way. You know,
I think it came out on Game Pass when it launched, so I understand why you say that.
Yeah. So I feel like that would be more of a Keighley event type announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're at an okay spot right now where I feel like going into a state of play, it's not like we're predicting all of the big PlayStation titles, right? Especially now that Naughty Dog's announced Interstellar. It kind of feels like, okay, cool. Like, that's where they're at right now. We have Ghost to talk about. We have the known quantities. I don't think we're hearing about Sony Santa Monica's game at this
No.
February state of play.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, so I
I
feel
think
like
the biggest or most. Oh, actually, two more things I want to throw in there: Marathon and Fair Games. I think. You know what? I'm gonna say
Yeah, wait,
Marathon.
hold on.
Marathon is gonna be there.
I love how the most obvious no shit. That's what it's gonna be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Marathon feels like it's because I think the reports before. God, I've read so many reports about these multiplayer things, right? But like, I believe it was supposed to come out last year and then got pushed into this year. I think now's the time. I mean, if this game is coming out in 2025, yeah, like let's start talking about it. Let's start promoting it. Get it into people's hands. Let's start doing previews. Hopefully, like let's find the ways to promote this thing in a way that like
we didn't do
for Concord. And then Fair Games, we'll see. I think right now, don't bundle those into the same thing. Like give each of those maybe its own time and like try to build one at a time. So like if Marathon is next, let's start talking about Marathon and see what that's about.
I think you're so right, Bless, but I think they do it. I think they have both.
Oh God, don't do it. Because then like we're gonna come out of it being like, okay,
which one was which?
Which one was which? Like Andy's gonna get on a talking point and be like, no, you're thinking of the other, other game.
100%.
Like it's gonna happen. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I want to bring in a super chat from Robbie Rob, who writes in and says, Resident Evil 0 is the latest remake to be leaked.
Interesting. I haven't seen that anywhere. We're running out of core Resident Evil games to remake, so not the biggest surprise, but for some reason I feel like we're gonna get a Resident Evil 1 remake before we get a 0 remake. But yeah, I don't know.
And then one I'll throw out there. Project Gummy Bears.
What's that?
That is the Smash MOBA game
Yeah.
that was reported on a few weeks ago.
I think it's a little early for that.
Yeah,
but I like you throwing it out there.
I just like the idea of like when there's smokes, there's like it leaking now.
Yeah.
It's like why did it leak now?
Yeah.
Because that's not something that people are like clamoring for.
No.
I'm not knocking on doors being like, yo, show me gummy bears.
Show me gummy bears.
So why was it reported now? Unless maybe it's about to show up somewhere. Who knows? Let's move on. Oh, thank you so much, Roger.
Played by John Travolta.
Gummy Bears 3D the
God,
movie.
this is so Roger coded.
It is
about
very Roger coded.
And Crazy Frog.
Let's move on to story number 2. EA shares pre-alpha gameplay of the next Battlefield. This is Tom Ivan at Video Games Chronicle, and for this story, I want to welcome to the stage the one and only Master of Hype, Snowbike Mike.
Jim C brings up Days Gone Remastered.
Oh yeah, Days Gone Remaster.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did something with Last of Us because of Last of Us 2. I don't know what they could possibly do.
Yeah, what's left?
Put them out as a bundle pack or something. I don't know. Last of Us Part 1 and 2.
Do you understand how livid the internet would be?
Hey man,
but
let's talk about Battlefield.
Do you want to? Oh, what is your mic on?
Is your mic on? He's talking into it. He's saying
Number
yes,
10.
it is. Number 10.
Hold on.
Roger's on it.
While you're figuring that out, let me get into the story. I'm pulling from Tom Ivan at Video Games Chronicle. Electronic Arts has shared the first pre-alpha gameplay footage of the next Battlefield game. About 10 seconds of footage is included at the end of a new video introducing the studios working on the game and a new Battlefield community testing program. Confirming a recent leak, the new closed testing environment for the series is called Battlefield Labs. Quote, Battlefield Labs is a place for us to test concepts and experiences we're excited about with you, our players, according to EA. We want our community to play a key role in the future of Battlefield, and this is an opportunity for many of you to do just that. This is an unprecedented moment for Battlefield, it added. We'll start by testing the pillars of play, like core combat and destruction, then transition to balance and feedback for our weapons, vehicles, and gadgets, ultimately leading to where all these pieces come together in our maps, modes, and squad play. And yes, we'll be testing Conquest and Breakthrough, the heart and soul of our all-out warfare experience. But Battlefield Labs will also be a place to explore new ideas and fine-tune and improve Battlefield pillars, like our class system, Assault, Engineer, Support, and Recon, to create deeper, more strategic play, end quote. Players can register now for the chance to participate with initial invites set to be distributed to a few thousand players in Europe and North America. Over time, EA plans to open testing up to other territories and tens of thousands more users. For internal EA studios, which the publisher is collectively referring to as Battlefield Studios, are building and we're going to get into that, are building a connected universe set in modern day. DICE is responsible for its multiplayer component. Motive is working on multiplayer maps as well as single-player mission content. Criterion is mainly focused on single player, and Ripple Effect is creating a new experience for the series. On top of that, I'm going to bring in a couple paragraphs from Eurogamer, Tom Phillips, saying Criterion will return to racing in the future. Quote, "The Need for Speed team at Criterion are joining their colleagues working on Battlefield," Zampella said in a statement to Eurogamer today. "As a company, it was important to us to take the last year to listen to our Need for Speed community and use their feedback to create content for Unbound. With an increased understanding of what our players want in a Need for Speed experience, we plan to bring the franchise back in new and interesting ways." A lot to unpack there. I'm going to start off with Mike. Mike, you're the Battlefield person in my life.
Bless, I love Battlefield.
How does this strike you? It seems like they're taking this in the same direction as they have with the new Skate game, as far as like getting into the audience's hands early.
Yes, I think a lot of the shooter audience, the shooter genre is always about speaking with the community, hearing your community, and trying to adjust for your community. And a lot of the player base always says, hey, you're not listening to us. Let us get involved earlier. Let us help you set the tone on what the players actually want. And I do like hearing that they want to create Battlefield Labs. They want to get out there early, right? This whole 4-minute package is a bunch of hype. It's a bunch of, hey, we're coming back. We're bringing it. We're giving you the things you want to do. But there's a couple things that really stood out to me. Vince Zampella on the track.
Yeah.
I appreciate Vince coming out and helping this team. That's big. I really, really love single player.
Yeah.
Right? You talk about the package of Battlefield. What is Battlefield in the future? We talk about chasing trends of course, BRs, of course, of the extraction shooters. I thought before I watched this, well, what is Battlefield going to do again? Are they going to try to chase one of these? No, give me the single player mixed with just the traditional Battlefield multiplayer. That's a win in my books. And so that gets me really excited. And then, of course, the brief just piece of gameplay looks like Battlefield of old. I know we always use the term boots on the ground, but you don't really see a lot of zip lining, no squirrel shoots flying. It just felt like, hey, here was just Battlefield 3 and 4. This is what you knew us for. Let's get back to that. And I'm excited for that.
Destruction is insane. Everything is
Look at that
blowing
whole
up.
building going out.
And then, of course, you know, the 4 talented teams, right? You're trying to create the Avengers of your studios to make the best Battlefield, because we know that Battlefield 2049 did not come out strong. It had a very rocky launch. There was something good at its core, but it wasn't good enough for that first impression to last and pull people away from Halo Infinite at the time, Call of Duty, Fortnite, Apex, all these other games. And so it takes a lot to move that mountain, as you know, Bless. And so I'm excited to see all these 4 teams come together and try to make Battlefield what it once was and make it really, really good.
Does this read concerning to you, though? Like, this sounds a little bit like we've seen this before of like, hey, let's take every team and throw it all at one problem. But the difference to me is like, it seems like they're leading that with, okay, we actually don't even know how to solve the problem, so we're going to kind of work with y'all to try to see if maybe we can figure it out.
I don't think so, Tim. I think, you know, you look at EA and you look at that portfolio, you look at the teams there, you look at like what they need, what they want to go after, and you look at an IP like Battlefield, and it's not like we were going to drop that after 2049. We just probably needed to get the right people involved, and I think getting Vince at the head of it and probably allowing him to be like, hey, what are the teams you need? How do we best make this happen? And him to go, well, maybe I need 4 teams around the globe that can all be working on this.
Yeah.
I think that's the right move. It's just too important of an IP to lose and come out wrong again, right?
See,
Like Battlefield, you can't mess this up one more time.
Well, that's where I come in, is I see what you're talking about and I see the vision. I think the thing that I wonder about is this over investment into Battlefield? Like, it feels like Battlefield for the last decade feels like it's been living in the shadows of its former competitors, right? Like, it used to be Battlefield versus Call of Duty back in the day, right? Battlefield 3 would come out and it's like, oh man, like, really is a fight here of which franchise is killing it, which franchise is better this year, right? And like, Call of Duty just took the ball and just fucking ran with it.
Of course.
And now it feels like that's dominating everything, and now things have changed where there's Apex, there's Fortnite, there's so many others, Valorant, and I'm naming different kinds of shooters, but like, there's been a transition into so many players, so many successful players, and then also everything is free to play. And so even just like in terms of monetization, the field is different, no pun intended. Or actually, I'm intending my puns. In 2025.
I like that.
In 2025, I'm
for
intending
you.
my puns. So now that things have shifted so much, it feels like the last few Battlefield games, like post, I'll say Battlefield 1, because I know it seems a lot of people love Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
But post that, it feels like they're trying to chase a former glory that seems like it's not sticking as much as they'd like to. And this seems like hey, we're putting all our cards, right? All our cards on the table. Like, we are investing into Battlefield, having all these studios work on it. Like, does that make you wait, what's your take on that?
And just real quick, jumping off of that, one last little point is this is like, we're talking about EA, who in the last month we've talked about like how they invest in their expectations for Dragon Age.
Of course.
Another example of a franchise that they need to hit.
Yeah.
And it came nowhere near sales expectations. So like with that in mind, Mike.
Here's the thing for me is like, when I think of that, you bring up Battlefield 1, right? Like, there was a moment where Battlefield was getting caught behind the times with the changing tides of what the shooter genre is and now is, right? And I think Battlefield just wasn't able to correct that. But Battlefield brings something that most shooting games don't. And we've seen that really Call of Duty is the only one that stood the test of time with that premium price tag, right? No one else is charging $70 still for their price tags, but they are also one of the few that's bringing you the full package. Battlefield can do that as well. And we've seen a yearn from players that want to get off the hamster wheel of just the Fortnites, the Battle Royales, the extraction shooters. They want that team arena shooter like we saw. People wanted Concord, but they didn't want it to win, of course. But we saw they wanted something different. They look at games like Fragpunk out there. They look at games and they go, oh, I would like to get away from what I'm just doing. Bring me something new. But I think the single player is the big one here, right? Bring us a good single player that people can rally behind, mixed with that Battlefield. You're known for just giant maps. You're known for the team play that not other games have, right? Nobody's bringing in 32v32, 64 versus 64 in the landscape that you're looking at right now. So I think they have something unique here, and you have to nail it. That's why you have to bring 4 teams and make this perfect. It's a big uphill battle. That's why you get the community involved earlier. But they have everything right to make that happen, right? And so will it hit expectations, Tim? No. It will have a lofty expectation that it probably won't hit unless it's really, really great. But we saw Halo had its time, went by real quick, right? Call of Duty is on an annualized cycle. That's why Call of Duty is always so great. Is I truly believe that Call of Duty has figured out the yearly cycle of you play it, you have the honeymoon phase, you're into the next 3 to 6 months of, hey, this is fine. I'm just kind of going through the motions. Okay, give me something new. They hit you with it, right? No other game is doing that. Nobody has that many teams to be able to do that. Battlefield is probably going to give you like a 2 to 3 year cycle. So that means they have to nail the honeymoon period. They have to give you add-on content that we know a lot of the audience is going to drop off on, but as long as you can hold it, you can come back again. But I think that single player is where they're going to try to really bring themselves to another level.
Can I ask a controversial question?
Lay it on me.
If this succeeds, if the next Battlefield comes out and it is the best Battlefield in the last decade and everybody loves it and it has, like, it gets the millions and millions of players that they wanted to have, does it, what's the Dark Knight quote of, like, you either die a hero and live long enough to see yourself become a villain? At what point is it like, oh, we're just not going to get a Need for Speed anymore from Criterion? Like, we're not going to get like the EA Motive games that they're making, because they're working on the Iron Man game, which is going to come out, right? But like, at what point do all these studios just turn into Battlefield studios?
I think we're here.
In the way that Call of Duty has like 7
Only
studios
if it
working
slaps.
But I mean, I think
it's
But
like
that's
mega
like,
slaps, and yeah, you're
but
in
like that is kind of like the 2 situations I see of either it fails and like, oh, cool, there's a bunch of layoffs, and then like these studios go back to doing their own things, or it succeeds and all these studios are now Battlefield studios, and we don't see, Motive or Criterion or these guys.
I would push
make a bunch
back
of
on you
other
and say, how important is Need for Speed? How big is Need for Speed? Maybe not important, but like when you talk about hitting your metrics, really making a splash in something, is Need for Speed right now in 2025 doing that?
No.
Has it been doing that the past 6 years, right? And so I would look at that team and be like, it's clearly not working. The audience isn't screaming, hey, I Need for Speed anymore. This is something that we believe in. You have to come over and help this.
Need for Speed is such an interesting thing because, like, with Unbound coming out, that honestly might have been the most bizarre game release in the history of video games.
1000%.
Like, how did a new Need for Speed with that much production value and that much like unique stuff going on kind of come and go just because, like, it felt like they were embarrassed of it?
They didn't even market it.
They didn't market it at all.
Like, I think we got a trailer weeks before, a month before, like,
and then it just came out like the worst time.
Came and went.
Didn't it come out like
December?
halfway through December?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell were they doing? Like, why? There's a story there. Why'd they do that?
Yeah.
What the hell happened?
And I mean, that's where I look at this story and I wonder of, like, is this a result? Like, is a Criterion working on this Battlefield a result of Unbound not performing in like their last 2 titles, maybe not performing as much as EA would have wanted out of it. Is this again, the shifting tides of the industry sort of thing of, oh man, all right, we need guaranteed successes. And Need for Speed right now isn't a guaranteed success, especially with how they're releasing them nowadays, right? Like, is this a all hands on deck, boom, Battlefield is what it is, we're going to make this a success, like, otherwise we don't know what we're going to do here sort of thing. I hear what you're talking about, Mike, as far as,
of course.
Yeah, like you need people to work on something that's going to get them money back. I just worry about, is Battlefield the one?
Battlefield is
We all know
the
it's
one.
not.
Yeah,
I think that's the problem.
I don't know. I think Battlefield
No,
could be the one.
Battlefield is the only thing that they have that can hit like that.
Okay, yes.
But we all know it's not going to.
Okay, yes.
Like, we all know.
Yeah.
Like, we know. we sit here and we can act like, oh, well, maybe. No. Like, let's just be real. No.
I mean, there's a landscape here that you could hit. The issue is like, will this break the mold? What is that one? We've talked about it for years now. What is the game that gets people away from Fortnite and gets people away from these games that they're just entrenched in? And nothing has done that yet.
See, my thing is, I think it can be the one if they make it free to play. I don't know if $60 or $70 is the way with these kind of games anymore. Maybe for the campaign, you can charge for a campaign.
Yeah.
But like the multiplayer element of this, if it's not free to play, then what are we doing? You're not going to get people away from Fortnite or these other games.
I almost feel like the conversation about like what's going to get people off of those games.
Yeah.
I think that we're past that point. I think now the people playing those games want more of those games. They want more of what they
want
already
more
are
battle
enjoying.
royales. They want more extraction.
They want
shooters.
Fortnite updates.
Yeah, like I feel like they're the idea of like, I think Battlefield's stuck in a very bad position where they either need to do something completely different or they need to do something that's just go back to what you used to do the exact same thing. And I think both are very risky because the new thing is like, all right, very unlikely to actually pay off. And then just going back to what used to work, look at Halo. Doesn't work anymore.
That's the issue. Is it just feels like it's going to be a Halo situation all over again. But it has the single player is a big deal. Having that full-fledged product that we used to know is a big deal to, I think, older generations here. Now you look at the younger generations that are making up a lot of the gaming hours, that are that active player base. And I don't know if they're screaming for this, but maybe if they get a taste of what Battlefield really is, that could be it, right? But it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited. I am interested of like why they didn't pull the shot and just do Titanfall. Like, why is this EA team so hands off of like, we don't want to do this? If you're assembling the Avengers team to make the ultimate shooter, just make Titanfall with Vince. Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, it's the name recognition, right? Like, that's the thing I worry about with this decision is you are looking at Battlefield as the IP because Battlefield has had the biggest peak out of all of these, right? And I think right now it is a thing of how do we reach that peak again, as opposed to looking at the space and going, yeah, like what if we invested either in a Titanfall or like make a Titanfall thing, but call it Apex. Like call it Apex because Apex is your big shooter IP right now, and I think you can find ways to double down on that in ways that I think excite people a little bit more. But yeah, I think they're chasing after Battlefield because it is the only first-person shooter IP I think that has ever been able to go head-to-head with a Call of Duty.
With Call of Duty, yeah.
Outside of like, I don't even know if I'll put Medal of Honor back in the day in that bucket. Probably not, right? Like I think Battlefield is the only one, and they keep trying to chase that. And I think that's worrisome. Like I don't know if that's going to work to everything Tim's talking about.
Seeing that gameplay though gets me pretty hyped.
I mean, it looks great.
I mean, it has my favorite gaming word in the world. Levolution. And I want to see Levolution, man. I want to see destructible environments. I want to see only in Battlefield moments. I want to see that Levolution of, hey, somebody did X, Y, and Z to these computers, and now a rocket ship is fucking flying off to the moon, and now the rest of the level is all in disaster. Like, that's what Battlefield brings, and it can be very exciting. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll see. I'm going to bring in a couple of super chats in. Gary the Third writes in and says, I think Criterion and DICE don't exist in 5 to 7 years because of this decision.
Yeah.
Battlefield will never hit the numbers to justify the cost of 4 studios.
I think
We'll
that's
see.
very true, man.
I can see it.
It's the chicken and the egg type thing of like, we need to make more content to make it worth $70+. So we need the single player. So we need the stuff. And it's like, you're thinking about this the wrong way.
Yeah. And then Volk Dasher. Actually, I'm going to skip Volk Dasher for now. There's another one from just Trent Therison who says, would love to see a strong return from Battlefield.
It'd be amazing.
It'd be
Yeah.
amazing. And I'm rooting for it. Like,
Yeah,
I'd love
of
to see
course.
another big first-person shooter, like, be one of those, right? I think if you're putting 4 studios into it, this shit better hit. the shit gotta hit, or else we're in trouble. Or else
We'll see
we're
what
in very
happens.
big trouble. Mike, thank you so much for
Thanks,
joining
boys.
us, man.
Yes.
Let's move on. But before we do, I want to tell you about patreon.com/kindafunny and youtube.com/kindafunnygames, where you can get the Kinda Funny membership, which allows you to get shows ad-free. And speaking of ads, let us tell you about our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. I'm going to be real. Aura Frames might be the most popular sponsor product people here have ever had at Kinda Funny. Many of us have Aura Frames set up at their desks, and even more of us have gifted them to friends and family to absolute rave results. Aura Frames was named the #1 digital picture frame by Wirecutter, and it's for a good reason. It's so easy to set up, and they have different frame options. We gifted Aura Frames to Gia's mom and dad this holiday, and they are both obsessed with us being able to upload our wedding photos straight to their frames. All you need is the free Aura app and a Wi-Fi connection, and you can upload as many photos and videos as you want, and your favorite live iPhone photos will play right on the frame. Right now, you can save on the perfect gift that keeps on giving by visiting auraframes.com. For a limited time, listeners can get $20 off of their best-selling Carver matte frame with code KINDAFUNNY. That's auraframes.com, promo code KINDAFUNNY. Don't forget to mention that we sent you to show your support for this show. Terms and conditions apply.
And we're back. I want to fit in a few more super chats about the stories we just talked about. CJ Splitson writes in and says, new Housemark reveal. It's been 4 years, commenting on the state of play. It doesn't feel like the time.
That's the thing is like, it's time. Like at any moment we can get this reveal. I don't think we get it in a February
State of play.
Yeah.
I could see it in a June or May state of play, maybe.
Exactly.
But Street Shadow writes in and says, Gummy Bears wasn't leaked now. It was reported during the Bungie layoffs last year that the project was transitioned to Sony and a new team at Sony, along with 100 or so Bungie devs joining Sony. Thank you so much for that, Street Shadow. We got more super chats, but we'll see if we can get to them at the end of the show. For now, let's move on to story number 3. After Dragon Age, the Veilguard layoffs, BioWare has under 100 employees. This is Paul Tassi at Forbes. There's really no getting around the fact that BioWare is in dire straits at the moment, now at the end of a decade of 3 missed opportunities to create new classic RPGs. Now, a new report from Jason Schreier at Bloomberg says that after layoffs and permanent transfers to other EA studios, BioWare is now down to less than 100 employees to finish Mass Effect 5, which still has an unknown release date. This comes after a bizarre statement from BioWare this past week that the full studio wasn't needed for this stage of development of Mass Effect 5, which is not an uncommon practice for many games at a certain stage of development. But this was different, given that in doing so, BioWare was permanently shrinking in size, moving many devs over to elsewhere in EA. But the statement totally masked a number of layoffs, possibly dozens, mainly focused on the Dragon Age the Veilguard team. Reportedly, the studio has shrunk from 200 employees around 2 years ago to less than 100 currently. The tweet or the Blue Sky post from Jason Schreier reads, after the release of Dragon Age the Veilguard, dozens of BioWare employees were told they were temporarily assigned to other projects within EA. This week, a twist. Those temp assignments are now permanent transfers, and BioWare has shrunk. Unfortunate, dude.
I mean, combine this with the last story. It tells a tale.
Yeah.
These big publishers are in trouble. It is bad.
Yeah.
And we've seen it for the last couple of years with Ubisoft, and we're seeing it with EA. They're in shambles, trying their best to figure out how do we just even make money at all at this point. Like, this is so worrisome, and especially after, we've talked to death at this point that Dragon Age did not hit expectations. And that is so concerning because of how valuable that IP is to gamers and to EA, right? Mm-hmm. And you look at Mass Effect, one of the most marketable game franchises we've had in modern generations. Like, one of the few game franchises to break out and have merch everywhere you look. Yep. You see N7s everywhere, And for how bad they got Andromeda and then Anthem, bring up all the things that we already know. Mm-hmm. Nothing about this gives me faith that the next Mass Effect is going to hit the way they need it to. And I just feel like we are broken records at this point of talking about these big games of like, is it going to do what it needs to do? Whether it's Assassin's Creed, Dragon Age, any of these things, Battlefield, like, we're in a bad spot that it feels like they're like, hey, out of desperation, just throw more and more and more at this problem. Reading this, it's like, all right, so you're throwing less at Mass Effect? Are those people that are being temporarily placed, are they going to Battlefield?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
That's actually kind of wild to think about it that way. But yeah, this is one where I don't have much more to add after kind of talking about the previous story about this one last week, but everything you mentioned there did make me just think about like all of the EA IP that they have and how tough it has been to see them like not be able to capitalize on it, right? Like it seems like there's been struggles in ways where I'm like, man, but you're EA. Like you have, not only do you have so many sports titles that continue to generate revenue for you year over year, but you have
They're not enough anymore.
They're not enough anymore. You have access to Star Wars. You have Battlefield. You have Dragon Age. You have massive, like big IPs.
And Game of the Year winners.
And Game of the Year winners, when you look at things like It Takes Two, right? Like in like even Jedi, right? Nominated all the time, right? But it's pretty wild to see you have access to so much, but that isn't doing it. Like what is the formula that's not working here? Like what is the thing? What is the misstep? Is it just over expectations? Is it the fact that when there's any dip in revenue, the whole ship just gets shaken up and like you can't handle just a dip because, like there's less players or people aren't as engaged in video games because like there's not the like work stay at home thing. Like what is it that's leading to all of this? Because this seems wrong.
And I think that this is all just a sign of a chasing of numbers going up at any cost and needing everything to double and triple and go bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think the pandemic and all that stuff is just like a blip on the radar when you really look at the cause of all of this when it started, which is games realizing they can monetize past their initial sale. The moment that shift happened, we saw a change in EA and Ubisoft in their output and in the way that they treat their games, and to some level of success. And I don't necessarily think this is all a bad thing. Like I do want to give Ubisoft flowers for one thing, if anything, which is finding ways to monetize games and have even non-live service games kind of live on and kind of have communities. And the amount of IP that Ubisoft are continuously supporting year after year is very impressive. I think that that's less true now. I feel like that's a little stale, but like thinking back 10 years ago, like what they were able to pull off is pretty damn commendable.
Yeah.
But I think that they didn't have a next step. They didn't know what to do after they were able to come up with this, and now we're kind of seeing the well kind of dry up a bit, and we see both EA and Ubisoft looking at their strategy and being like, "Hey, we're not making more and more and more. This is bad. How do we fix this?" And I feel like there isn't really a way to fix it because the shareholders don't care about the reasons. They just need the numbers to be bigger, right? It's just scary with the EA in particular because of how big they are, and if they're, we're seeing that their FIFA or their FC stuff is not making as much money as they're hoping or needing it to. We're just talking about Need for Speed. It's just like if we're at a point now where they've kind of like fucked up all of their major IP, and we're like giving up on things like Need for Speed. That sure, maybe that's not going to be a 10 million plus seller, but why not? I feel like the brand is there. Like they should be able to like create a product out there that is profitable.
I mean, I think it is just the more, right? We need more money. We need more, I guess stakes get ratcheted up more and more to where you look at something like EAFC, where it is still one of the best selling games of the year last year. I assume I'm sure I looked at like the top 10, but I can't tell you right now where EAFC is on the top 10. I can tell you that it's there and it's probably in the top 3. And to have a game that sells that much, but to still go, not enough, right? It's like the year where Call of Duty Vanguard came out, and like I think there was the report after that where Activision wasn't happy with the Vanguard sales, even though Vanguard #1 selling game of the year that year. It's like, okay, well, there's something wrong here. Like there's something deeply wrong here with the inner workings and how money is flowing if you can't make this justify. And that might just fall back to the video game business and how expensive it is to make video games, market video games, and like have that balance out with sales. And like you mentioned, right? Like the moment video games the industry realized you could make money post that initial sale with like live monetization, the expectations balloon even more for what we need you to be able to do as a video game. And I pitched this to Greg in a DM, but I really want to like have an episode of GAMESCAST where we sit down, maybe we get Matt Piscatella and we just talk numbers of where is everything going wrong? Yeah. Like, what is happening right now?
I love that.
Because it seems like shit is just out of whack in ways that it shouldn't be.
Yeah. And in ways that feel like we're going down a path that is unrecoverable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Story number 4. The Sleeping Dogs movie is in development, and we're hearing Shang-Chi star Simu Liu is set to play Wei Shen. This is Wesley Yin-Poole at IGN. This week, MCU star Simu Liu got Sleeping Dogs fans excited when he tweeted to say he was working with the rights holders to bring the much-loved video game to the big screen. It turns out things are a little further ahead than that. A source close to the project has told IGN that the Sleeping Dogs movie is in development, and we're hearing Simu Liu, who plays Shang-Chi in Shang-Chi in The Legend of the Ten Rings, is producing and set to play the lead role of Wei Shen. IGN has asked Square Enix for comment. Sleeping Dogs was first released in 2012 on PS3, Xbox 360, and PC, and tells the story of Detective Wei Shen as he infiltrates one of Hong Kong's notorious triad crime syndicates. While it failed to meet publisher Square Enix's lofty sales expectations, some things never change.
Some things never change.
It is much loved by
here's
fans.
the thing. Like, I would be very interested to know what Square's lofty sales expectations for Sleeping Dogs were, because I bet if we heard that, we would, like, die of shock for how low it is compared to what their expectations are these days.
This is exciting stuff. There was also a tweet from Simu Liu where he also mentioned, like, wanting to bring the game back as well. So I hope you're successful.
Yeah, me too. I love it. I think this could be very fun. Obviously, he's got the chops when it comes to the type of movie and skill set you need for that. So I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see him punch more things. It's been way too long.
Dude, are they making a Shang-Chi too?
Not officially, but they will.
I hope. I really like Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Story number 5. Fallout New Vegas and Horizon Zero Dawn lead writer John Gonzalez returns to Obsidian. This is Matt Wales at Eurogamer. John Gonzalez, lead writer on Fallout New Vegas and Horizon Zero Dawn, has announced his return to Obsidian after 14 years elsewhere in the industry, but not, he suggests, to work on Fallout New Vegas 2. Gonzalez originally joined Obsidian in 2008 after a 2-year stint as lead narrative designer at Ubisoft. He was only with Obsidian for a little over 2 years, but his impact as lead story guy on the hugely beloved Fallout New Vegas was significant. He was responsible for its quest and most of its dialogue, introducing characters such as Mr. House and Yes Man. After that, Gonzalez spent 2.5 years at Monolith Productions, working as a lead narrative designer on the acclaimed Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, and in 2016, he made the move to Guerrilla Games, where he served as narrative director on the hugely popular Horizon Zero Dawn and its sequel. Since then, he's worked on a number of smaller projects, including his ultimate video game novel, God Mode, and now he's come full circle. Gonzalez announced his return to Obsidian in a brief post on LinkedIn, and his updated profile confirms he's officially joined as the studio's new creative director. As to what he'll be working on, that isn't yet known beyond vague allusions to exciting times. Gonzalez did, however, append a quick note, adding, "No, it is not Fallout New Vegas 2. And to that, I say, why not?
Yeah, this is dope, though. Like, I really like the way this was kind of announced, and I like him even saying like, it's not Fallout New Vegas 2. Like, just kind of getting it out of the way and like getting that speculation going that way. He could be lying. He could be lying.
He's not, though.
You know what I
I
mean?
believe him. That's the unfortunate thing is I believe him. Like, yeah, you're not
Or
making
it's Fallout New Vegas 3.
Whoa.
We skip a
We're
sequel.
skipping
Skip it.
two.
Why not, dude?
Everybody's
Newest
doing
Vegas. But yeah,
Ghost Simulator did it.
we're talking about some real talent here, right?
Dude, it's pretty sick to read off like his gameography here and being like, oh, you got the stuff.
Yeah.
Like the games that you wrote stories on. Like I know people will poo-poo Horizon Zero Dawn for whatever reason, right? But like that story is great. Like the world they built in that game is fucking sick. And so to have
Lead
that
narrative
kind of,
designer, like, all right, cool.
And Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor, I like that story. Like,
Yeah.
do your thing. Yeah, I can't wait to see what he's doing for Obsidian, which could be anything because Obsidian just puts out games.
That's
like
so true.
crazy.
That is so
in different
true.
types of games.
Yeah.
Like just this generation, that studio put out Pentiment, Grounded. They're about to put out Avowed, and maybe later this year we get Outer Worlds 2. Insane
Wild stuff.
studio
Good for
over
them,
there.
man. Yeah.
Tim, Obsidian, they be doing big things.
Big things.
But if I wanted something smaller, say the tiniest news I need to know about, where would I go?
You go to our last story, the We News channel, where we cover all the small news items that you need to know about.
Story number 6. We News. Sonic 3 surpassed Detective Pikachu as the all-time second highest grossing video game movie. And then Wario64 tweets out, Ollie Ollie World and Rollerdrome are currently delisted on Steam. Unknown if it's temporary because of the private division portfolio sale to ex-Annapurna staff.
Interesting.
And that is it for Wii News. But come on, Sonic 3.
Sonic 3, baby.
Come on,
doing
man.
big things. What's the number one? Mario.
Mario.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
Of
but
course.
that's so appropriate. You get
I know.
Mario, Sonic, and Pikachu in the top 3.
Yeah.
As it
Detective
should be.
Pikachu, man, will always kind of blow my mind for how relatively poorly it did. And I think it's just because the time it came out, like it came out right around Endgame. and other giant movies like Lion King and Aladdin, which like we can look at and be like, whatever. It's like we're talking about some of the highest grossing movies of all time. It definitely got in the way of the audience of a Detective Pikachu. But for what that movie was, a live action Pokemon starring Ryan Reynolds as a talking Pikachu, and it only did like what, 300 million or something like that.
You sound like an EA executive right now. It's the number 3 highest grossing movie, the highest grossing video game.
But whatever,
movie.
that's almost an irrelevant stat. Like
You're
that's
right,
fun
yeah.
to like pump up, but like when you're comparing it to other movies, right?
Yeah.
Like if that movie came out at a different time, it would have done so much better.
Yeah, Roger this morning, like we were having the conversation of why haven't they made a sequel to Detective Pikachu?
Because it didn't do that well.
Yeah.
Like again,
That surprises me.
It did. I don't think people looked at it like a failure, but they did not look at it like we need to greenlit a sequel now. They are working on a sequel though.
What?
You think so?
Yeah.
Like they are?
Oh yeah.
That's
But-
the best news I can
Is that
But
like a rumor
even-
thing, or is that
No, they talked about it a long time ago, but like
Gotcha.
it's it's one of those things. I don't know where we're actually going to see it. But yeah, they were working on a sequel to it, but it might have not been as much of the detective stuff, but it might have been more of like a core, like more traditional type Pokemon thing. I know, but there's also the live action Netflix series that they're working on.
yeah? Which
So,
is
I don't know what's up with that.
yeah, Pokemon is so. I was telling Roger this as well this morning when we were talking about this, right? Pokemon is just so bizarre because I feel like they have so many cool projects that come out, but they're all one and dones. Like there was that cool. They remade Pokemon the first movie with the coolest art style I've ever seen.
It's so weird.
Yeah, and it's like you should do this a lot. Like you do this a lot more. And they're like, all right, now we're doing another thing with another cool art style. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Do more of this. Now we're doing another. And I'm
Yep.
like, what the fuck is
We're
happening?
doing more Pokemon Concierge, so that's all that matters.
Yeah,
That is all
concierge.
that
That's what I was
That's my
thinking of.
favorite.
Man, we are weeks away from Pokemon Day. I'm excited.
What do you
I
think
got
you're
big
gonna get?
feelings. I mean, clearly we'll see Za for the first time.
Nah.
It's nuts. We're going to go a whole year seeing nothing about that game since it was announced. And
Which-
that is not Pokemon's MO at all.
Kind of refreshing.
Yeah, but
honestly.
also a lot of hype. Because, like,
Yeah.
what are we going to see? Are we going to look at this and go, have the same reaction we do every time we see one of these new Pokemon games where we're like,
like that doesn't look as cool as I wanted it to look.
Yeah.
But I'll play the fuck out of it though.
yeah, exactly.
Let's close out the show with some super chats. The Drake writes in and says, publishers remind me of a quote. Quote, poverty exists not because we cannot feed the poor, but because we cannot satisfy the rich. Publishers always want more money.
Yeah.
Flying Penguin says, would you buy GTA 6 for $100? I think we had this conversation. The answer for me is yes. I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to like spending the $100, but you put out a GTA for $100. I'm spending that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe I'll wait for a sale. But then
No,
it's
you
like,
won't.
how long is
Bullshit.
that? No, I'm not waiting for a
Yeah.
sale. Maybe I borrow a copy from somebody.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find a way to play it.
Yeah,
You know,
fair.
I'm gonna
You're
find
not
a way
buying
to
it.
play
You're
it.
not borrowing a copy because it's gonna take months for that person to be like, "Hey, here's a copy of the game."
It's gonna take them a week to finish the campaign, or, like,
and
finish
then
the story.
like a month to just dick around and have fun. You're gonna buy that copy.
I'll find a way to play it. I'll
stealing
find a
it.
way to play it. Clawmaster says, "Man, that'd be a crazy saga if like we had." Like physical copies of GTA 6 are kind of funny, and then one person's disappeared. And like, if it came down to a thing of like somebody stole somebody's copy of GTA 6, we got to figure this
We
out.
got to figure out who it is.
Clawmaster says, Tim, have you seen the Netflix Devil May Cry intro? It's Tim coded to a T.
I think I've watched it 100 times. I can't wait for this fucking show. It's about to be bonkers, man.
Oh, yeah.
They had the balls to use Limp Bizkit's Rollin'.
Is they really?
Did you not see this?
No, I've been holding off because I want to see it in action.
Yeah, bless. It's Limp Bizkit's Rollin'.
That's awesome.
And they're just, yeah, so the Adi Shankar was saying that the show takes place in the early 2000s.
I love that.
And like they're
I
leaning
love that.
hard into that. Oh my God. I can't
Damn.
wait.
Ninja Stash writes in and says, birthday tax. Great conversation. Bless Mike and Tim. I come for the real talk and stay for the good vibes.
Happy birthday.
Volk Dasher says, have just done a Naughty Dog game marathon, and holy, those folks know how to make a game. Just like Platinum. Oh, I see what you're saying. Just like Platinum and Ninja Gaiden, I cannot imagine a world where Intergalactic is not an amazing game.
Hell yeah.
We got another one from Heroic Headgear, birthday tax. Love all you goobers. And then Jordan White says, do you think we'll ever get a Forge-like mode for COD? Mike, are you still back there? Do we get a Forge-like mode for COD? He's walking over.
No.
You don't think, because like Forge, that's just like the creative mode for Halo, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's doing those. Even Fortnite's doing a creative. You don't think Call of Duty is going to get in on that?
Call of Duty already deals with a lot of problems. They're not going to deal with more problems.
You know what? That is fair.
He's not thinking about it right.
That is
Mike,
fair.
think about it in the
They've
Halo.
streamlined it. They're not going to fuck
Think
it up
about
now.
it in the Halo way. Then they could just have everybody make the maps for them and then
I
they
always,
release them.
I always appreciated that. It's like, you know what? You make it. And it's
I
like, no,
hate
no.
it, dude.
You fucking make
You make me
it.
Beaver Creek,
It's
you
always-
fuckers.
Just so you know.
No, you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to say that of all.
Just so you know, there's always a look to Forge created maps.
I hate it.
There's a difference.
Oh, I'm
there's
so
the
with you.
real created maps, and then there's Forge created maps. And as much as you want to say, oh, Mike, they're really great and they're awesome. No, there's just like,
They're
there's
off,
a piece.
dude.
I see it. I know it's.
Mike's
You
right,
make
man.
it. I do feel that though. It's like in the same way where Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, did that have like online creative mode?
Yes.
Like people
Uh-huh.
would share their stuff. I ain't playing that shit.
I know,
I ain't
exactly.
playing that shit.
Some of them are
man.
fun for a second. I'm like, no.
Like, nah,
Give me
dog.
that real shit.
Jordan Wright writes in and says, Random, the Grammys were a 9 out of 10 this year. Every performance was amazing. Beyonce won, Doechii won, K-Dot swept. With this show, the Game Awards, and previous Xbox presentations, are we in an awards show / showcase golden age? Did you watch the Grammys last night?
I watched the performances. You see Doechii?
I saw, oh my God.
Oh my God,
I love
dude.
Doechii so
Love
much.
her.
Listen
So
to her album
fucking
all
good.
this morning.
She's so good. And she's so good at performing.
She's good at everything. Like,
Yeah,
she's
that
incredible.
costume change, I'm like, oh my
so,
Lord.
so good.
Yeah, so that was great. Yeah, I think we're in a good spot with some of the better showcases and award shows, but I don't think overall we're hitting where we need to for some things
Yeah.
yet.
I don't think there will ever be a showcase or like a award show golden age, just because like every year somebody's gonna fuck it up, like majorly. It happens every like. Cherish the Grammys this year, because next year that's just gonna be trash somehow. It's gonna happen. I
Yeah.
don't know what's gonna happen, but something's gonna happen. We're gonna all be like, oh really? Like Macklemore won again. Like J. Cole and Kendrick.
Probably
He wasn't even
happens.
nominated. He
Yeah.
wasn't even nominated. How did Macklemore beat Kendrick and J. Cole again? Because you know that J. Cole album's dropping this year. Come on, let's do it.
Come on,
The
put
fall
that
off.
out in the world.
The fall off. Let's go. We got Jay Collado who writes in and says, got my wisdom tooth removed this morning, but made it just in time to see today's KFGD. And Kuma Babam writes in and says, can we get a second to appreciate Joe Hendry at this past weekend's Royal Rumble? I believe in Joe Hendry.
I believe in Joe Hendry as well. What a moment, man. That was awesome. I'm so we all knew it was going to happen, but it's a perfect example of sometimes things just happening is what needs to go down.
1000%.
And man, it was perfect. He got eliminated by Roman Reigns. That's so cool.
It's so fucking cool. I love all the face-offs of the Royal Rumble. What's his name? Jacob Fatu facing off with like 15
Everyone
different people.
growling at John Cena. Like, come on, man.
Freaking Jey Uso versus John Cena to finish it out. And I know, listen, I get it, everybody. Oh man, Jay, like, we saw him versus Gunther, all that stuff. It was still cool. It was cool to me, damn it.
Dude, it's fucking awesome.
Jey Uso, I love him.
Sheamus and Joe Hendry make me laugh so hard.
So
That's
good.
such a good bit. I
Yeah.
hope that they continue that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is it for Super Chats. I will say, like, you want to talk about Golden Ages. Yeah, last night's Royal Rumble, I think that was actually the first Royal Rumble that I watched from beginning to end because I never used to do pay-per-views as
No
a kid.
way.
Yeah, and like it felt like peak. I don't know if they're usually this good. There's no way
This one I would say was on the high end of
this
them.
felt
Yeah.
like very high tier for just me as a wrestling fan seeing matches. That was incredible.
Here's the thing, Bless. You're saying that like you're watching all these shows, you're playing your Magic cards while watching stuff.
Yeah.
Throw on old Royal Rumbles, man. Those things
yeah?
age like wine.
Oh, okay.
It's still exciting because there's nothing better than the Royal Rumble. We all know that.
I mean, now I know. That shit was fun. Also, rest in peace to Kevin
Speed.
Owens.
Oh.
And Speed. And Speed. I hope he's good.
That was amazing.
That was-
Seeing Braun Breaker running in the back is just such a threat.
Speed is such a small human being too, where it's like I know like it's wrestling, it's WWE, so like they'll take protections, like they'll do what they can to protect people. That looked legitimately concerning.
Yes.
How hard Speed got tackled. Incredible stuff. Let's get into your wrong. Rewrite it and let us know what we got wrong as we got it wrong, so we can correct it for those watching later on YouTube and listening later on podcast services around the globe. I am refreshing the You're Wrong sheet. I'm seeing nothing, man. I think we got everything
Perfect,
correct.
dude. Of course.
It's us. All right, that's it.
All right.
That's been Kind of Funny Games Daily. Continue watching live, though, because you got a GAMESCAST after this. That's going to be the Civ 7 and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 impressions from the one and only Mike Howard, who's sitting there in the back. Of course, this has been KFGD. Each and every weekday, we run you through the nerdy news you need to know about live on YouTube, Twitch, and on podcast services around the globe. If you love what we do, support us with the Kind of Funny membership on Patreon or YouTube to get all of our shows ad-free, watch us record them live, and get a daily exclusive show. Enjoy GamesCast next and the stream after, but until next time, game daily.